Let's get into how to regulate your inner child's nervous system. First of all, how do you know if your inner child needs to be regulated? Or how do you know if how to recognize what your inner child is doing and how it's coming up in your day-to-day life? Whether you're new to inner child work or you've never heard of it, or maybe you have experienced inner child work to some degree, what I notice with a lot of the women who work with me, they are to some degree in a level of like a dysregulated state. And oftentimes, these women that are coming into my world wanting to work with me, they desire more out of their life. They desire a life of fulfillment and one where their relationships feel wonderful and one where their career or their business is really successful and their what they just do for themselves, like they feel like they have time for themselves. And it's like every area of their life they desire to have it be overflowing. But for a lot of women, they have no idea how to actually make this possible, or wonder and question if it even is possible. And while working together for with my clients, when we recognize the areas of the things that are holding us back, they often tie back to inner child wounds and the way that our nervous system is responding in our day-to-day life today has so much to do with how your inner child is responding. And here's what I'll say, because inner child work may sound kind of, well, if you're not used to it or you don't even really know what it is, you may have like this guard around it, or you may just be like, I don't even know what this means. And ultimately, what you need to understand is your inner child, just inner child, exists within you. It exists within all of us. Your inner child doesn't just go away as you get older. It always exists within you, but for some people, they're really good at suppressing their inner child. And the way that you can think about this is, think about when you were younger, maybe around the age of 6 or 7, and just like really thinking about who you were at that time of your life. What were the things that you enjoyed, and how was your personality? Like, how was your authenticity compared to how you show up today and who you are now? Because for most people, they have watered down their inner child. And ultimately, we can start to understand our inner child is actually who we authentically are and grew out of. But essentially what that means is we started to suppress that part of ourselves, whether it was because the people around us made us believe that we shouldn't act a certain way, or we got into school and we had to behave and we had to start doing things in a certain order, and it caused us to really start to water down who we truly are. Again, your inner child that never goes away, it's always within you. And when I start to work with women, what they find is their inner child actually starts to come through again, and they learn what it means to allow that to really come through without worrying about how others are going to perceive them, and how, if they're going to be accepted or rejected by other people. They stop worrying about all of that. They stop placing their attention in those things, and instead they start placing their attention in their inner child and placing their attention in watering their inner child, allowing the inner child to flourish again. And when they do that, their life is completely transformed. This is the thing that people don't realize, is if you just nourish your inner child, you heal the parts of your inner child that are crying out for help, and then you allow the inner child to come alive again, this will change your life. This will rearrange your physical reality. Whereas most people when they say they want certain things in their life, they're constantly focused on the physical reality and doing and taking action to try and get closer to the life that they desire. When a better and easier way that you could do it is you could focus on your inner work, focus on healing, focus on discovering who you are again and allowing that to come through, and the physical reality will begin to rearrange itself for you, because our physical reality is always in a vibrational match of our own energy. So if you're allowing more of your true essence, your true energy to start to shine through and come through, well, then your physical reality is going to start to realign to that. So that's why inner child work, understanding what it actually is, can really transform and change your life. So, when we're looking at regulating the inner child's nervous system, the thing you want to start to recognize is recognizing when it's coming up for you, recognizing when you actually need to regulate the inner child. So, the way that this can show up in day to day life is obviously if you are experiencing any type of anxiety, any form of anxiety, if you are living in a state of chronic stress, especially if you feel like you have a lot of pent up anger or resentment. These are really, really big clues that your inner child has some deep wounds that need some healing. If you have really low self esteem and you just lack a lot of confidence in yourself, that is also an inner child wound and needs to be addressed. And the other thing, too, that may surprise you is if you say that you are shy or timid and you say that that's just your personality, this is actually like not an actual personality trait. This is equivalent to saying, "Oh, I have anxiety." People aren't shy or timid. They develop wounds, or they have wounds that end up leading to them not feeling safe to be who they truly are, be their authentic self, and therefore they develop this um, trait of shyness, of timidness. I used to think that because that's how I was. I used to be very, very shy, especially in high school. I was always someone that I didn't want anyone to look at me. I didn't want the center of attention to be on me. And I thought that that was just because, oh, I'm just shy. Like I was born this way. But that's not true, because when someone is okay with their, like, they know themselves and they're not afraid to be who they are and be authentic and true to that, they are not concerned about rejection and whether someone is going to like them or not. Being shy is a protection barrier that we put on ourselves because we are afraid of rejection, or we are afraid of not being accepted for who we truly are. So it's just a protection barrier that we create on ourselves. Again, I thought that this was me. I thought that being shy was just my personality and it wasn't ever something that I could change. Well, as I started doing inner child work and healing that part of myself, I realized that I actually am not that shy. And this isn't the same thing as introverted and extroverted. I don't believe it's the same thing, but like I had always considered myself very introverted as well. And although I still consider myself to be more on the introverted side, I think for a long time I believed that I was an introvert because I just didn't want to be around people. But what I realized is that that was just a wound. That was a protection that I was putting and guarding myself with, was, oh, I'm an introvert. But really, I was using it as an excuse to hide and not be around people. And that there's obviously energetic things that are going on as well for people who consider themselves introverts, because they can sense energy, like it's a bigger impact for them. And I talk about that in other videos. But what you'll come to realize is being an introvert isn't the same thing as being shy or being quiet and not wanting to be around people because you're afraid of being who you are, you're afraid of being seen. Those are two different things. So if any of those things resonated for you and you're like, yes, I feel this way, yes, I feel this way, Or even if you're someone, like if you're like this people pleaser, that's also an indication that your inner child needs addressed. You need to regulate your inner child. You need to heal some of the things that are buried under there, because being a people pleaser or being a perfectionist, this is also a form of protection on our inner child. We are essentially going out of our way to prevent rejection, prevent um, criticism. And the only reason we would do that is if our inner child didn't feel safe and didn't feel loving towards ourselves. Because if we don't feel loving towards ourselves, then we essentially are outsourcing that feeling to other people, and that's has a sense of control over us. So that's why people will start people pleasing, or they call themselves a perfectionist, like everything has to be perfect before it can actually happen. That's a form of protection, because they don't believe that they can handle any form of rejection or self-criticism, because deep down, like, they already don't feel good about themselves under all of those layers. So let's talk about how you can actually start to regulate your inner child and the nervous system of your inner child. So first and foremost, and this is going to be this is probably going to be challenging for a lot of people who are new to this work. But one of the first things that you need to do is you need to restore your connection with your body. And before you say or come at me and say, I already am connected with my body, what do you mean? If you have inner child wounds, there is a level of disconnection from your body, because what happens when we develop these inner child wounds, what's happening with the body and the nervous system is we are actually not allowing the emotions that we're experiencing, or the situations that are happening, we're not actually allowing those to fully um, move through our body. There's an energetic charge to those experiences and to those emotions. And when we develop an inner child wound, essentially what happens is this energetic charge stays within our body, and then we develop a subconscious belief around that experience or around those emotions that we had. And anytime that a negative emotional charge gets stuck in our body, like our little literal fascia, our muscles, this it almost, think of it as it's like forming a shield in your body. And that's why there's certain areas of your body that's storing tension, right? We all have areas in our body, like maybe it's our shoulders, or maybe it's our back, or maybe it's our knees, that have some form of tension or pain to some degree. That means that your inner child has this wound that it's holding on to, and that it's now had to create this protective barrier around, because it's constantly experiencing the wound. It's like having a you it's like having a thorn stuck in you, and you just, instead of pulling it out, which would be like feeling it, right? You have to face it. Instead of pulling it out, you're just letting it sit there. Therefore you have to like create this guard around it so that nothing hits it and nothing touches it, because then it's going to hurt even more. That's what's happening with our body and with inner child wounds that we experience. And here's the thing: people think that inner child healing is reserved for people who had the most traumatic abusive experience in their childhood, and that's not true. Kids who Adults who had childhoods that were good, but they didn't experience anything super traumatic, but there are still things that emotionally they felt. That's just as important. That impacts us just as much. And so I don't want you to think that because you didn't have this terrible childhood experience, that means that your childhood wounds aren't valid, or they're silly that you have them. That a child experience they experience things very differently than an adult does, meaning that a child could get yelled at by a teacher for the first time ever, and their body, their nervous system is not the same as an adult nervous system. Their nervous system responds to an adult yelling at them as an actual threat, like a life or death threat. And if that child doesn't know how to handle those feelings, that can develop as a wound within their body and within their psyche. So understand that inner child healing is for everyone. We all have wounds that we've developed over the course of our life. And if we don't take the opportunities to really regulate and heal those wounds, they're always going to be hindering in the background of our life. So, going back to reconnecting with your body, this is where we really lack as a society a lot of knowledge and a lot of um, resources. And I do believe that we are heading in a direction that is understanding this on a deeper level more and more and more. But there really is a disconnection in all areas of our life when it comes to being connected with the body and trusting that your body has a lot of wisdom and your body holds a lot of answers to your life. So, again, when we develop those wounds, it's almost like every time we have this wound that we don't tend to, it severs the relationship with our body more and more and more. So, just because you're a normal functioning adult in society does not mean that you are not completely disconnected from your body. I work with a lot of women who have severed their relationship with their body so much that they're living from the mental plane. They're basically living from their logical brain, and they have no skill set of working with their body. Like this, it actually is a skill to work with your body and understand we have the left brain and the right brain, right? Where a lot of people, they're just living in their logical brain and that's all they know how to do, and they don't know how to actually tap into their intuition in a deeper level. They don't know how to hear the messages that their body is giving them, right? Our body can be very tapped into our intuition and source. Like it's able to receive messages, but if we have severed that relationship with our body, then we're not going to be able to tap in and access those abilities until we've restored the balance. So it's really about pausing and slowing down and surrendering, which is very against how a lot of women are living their life. They're very go, 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 hustle, 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 always in a hurry. Everything's an emergency, right? Maybe that's you. And the moment you're asked to slow down or take a pause or sit down for 5 minutes without having any kind of distraction and just sitting with your body, sitting with your breath, it feels like the most uncomfortable thing in the world. That's not normal. And I know that that's the normal for most people. That is not normal. We should be able to sit without any stimulation and be able to sit with our body and actually have a communication with our body. So the first place that you want to start if you are brand new to this is learning how to pause more, learning how to slow down. Like when you're eating your food, when you're driving, when you're walking somewhere, can you force yourself to do it slower? Can you force yourself to be more in the present moment versus trying to just get to the next thing? Okay, that is where you can begin to practice, because I know if I go in and say start with meditation, a lot of you are going to have resistance just with that. You're going to say, I can't do it. I can't. I've tried meditation before. I sit down and I'm just thinking the whole time. I understand. I work with women on this all the time, and I work with women in somatic body work as well, where we begin restoring that. So I can understand just feeling like sitting there and focusing on your breath. If you're already in a dysregulated state and you don't know how to regulate that is going to be very, very challenging for you. And that's one of the things that I help women with is we don't necessarily start with meditation. We start with reconnecting back to the body and bringing our focus out of our brain and into our body. And we do it very, very slowly. So, learning how to do that first is going to help you recognize your own nervous system and how your body is responding on a day to day, because you need to know how it's responding and when to regulate it, right? Now, the deeper layer to this, as you're going deeper with this, is really getting good at identifying the fear based beliefs and wounds that you are still holding on to, right? I said before that when a child experiences a situation that feels traumatic for them, they develop a type of belief around that. And this often is a fear based belief. It's not actually in alignment with who they are and their truth. So we want to make sure we start to identify those fears and really pull back the layers to them. Sometimes, depending on how much you've been doing this, sometimes your body and your brain won't actually reveal to you the deepest core belief or the deepest wound, because it's still protecting you, and it it knows how deep you can go with yourself. So this is why this is a continued practice for your entire life, is you just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. But in order to heal those wounds, you do have to be able to identify what they are. What are the beliefs that you developed as a child based on the circumstances that you were in? And once you've developed these, or once you've identified these fears that are maybe controlling your life today, we need to face them. We need to feel and move through them. And that's the only way that we are able to actually release them. And I know that that can feel very, very scary for a lot of people. So, again, this is why this journey can happen in layers. It can happen slowly, or if you've been doing the work for a while, it can happen quickly. But it really is about giving your body the space to release, right? Like I said, if you have a wound, a thorn in your knee, and it's just been there for years and years and years, well, you can actually guide the body to release that stored energy, that stored negative charge that was stored in your knee. You can guide it to release it. The only way to do that is to feel through it, because you need to move the energy. And each energy is its own emotion, so that means you're experiencing the emotion. But once you've done that, which it doesn't mean you're going to be doing it for days and days and days. You can sit there for 90 seconds and experience the emotion, and then you'll find that it actually starts to subside, and it's like, oh, okay, all I had to do was experience that for about 90 seconds of my life, and now it's not stored in my body anymore. So you can start to peel back those layers and do that work. And the ultimate thing here to understand is these inner child wounds that we have oftentimes lead to us outsourcing our power, because we develop these beliefs that are distorted. And ultimately, when you think about a child just wants to be comforted. It just wants to be loved. It just wants to feel safe. It wants all of those basic needs. And when it develops a wound around whatever it is, it's basically like saying, I can't have that thing anymore. And, therefore I'm going to put on this protective layer. And what ends up happening in our adult life is those areas that we've developed this distorted fear-based belief around, we end up um, we end up manifesting that belief into our life, because our core beliefs that we hold about ourselves and about life is what drives our actions and our habits. So if let's say you have a belief that you developed as a child that maybe you don't deserve love, or that you are not loved for whatever reason, you developed this thing, and now you're having a really hard time with your relationship life, your like finding partners or keeping partners, or maybe you have a partner but you keep attracting toxic people or people that don't love you the right way. Understand that this is actually always going to continue repeating for as long as you outsource your power to external individuals. So this is why what I just talked about prior, where you're pulling back the reins, you're not only reconnecting with the body, but you're identifying the beliefs, you're feeling through them, and lastly, you are taking back your power. You're no longer outsourcing it, which means you're being your own hero. So when you can give your inner child what it desires that it originally outsourced to an adult, when it happened, when you can give that back to your inner child, your adult self can do that. You essentially are becoming your own hero. You're becoming your own parent for your inner child, whatever you want to call it. And you're taking back that power. So it's no longer extended out and outsourced to the world around you, constantly validating and just repeating the pattern that's going on in your life. You take back that power, you give it to yourself, and therefore you no longer need other people or other external things to make you feel a certain way, and that's how your reality starts to shift as well. So I hope that this was helpful. I do have a free identity recalibration training linked below, that if you are new to your healing journey but you are ready to shift into who you are becoming, this is a really great place to start. It will teach you how to really identify certain beliefs that you're holding on to, that your inner child is holding on to, and it'll guide you through the process of reconnecting with your body and releasing things that are in your body. And the other thing is, I have created a free inner child meditation. It's a video that I is on my YouTube channel. So if you want to do an inner child meditation, I will be sure to link this video next, and you can click on that and experience it for yourself. So be sure to like this video if it was helpful. Be sure to subscribe if you are on a journey of regulating your nervous system, healing your negative beliefs and perceptions of yourself, and really activating your purpose.